The title of this video is Spiritual Narcotics. So if you can read my blog at galacticshamanastrologers.net, you will see that on June 10th we had a square that looks like a T-square carpentry tool to Neptune, the planet of illusions, fantasy, visions, addictions in Pisces. On June 23rd, we have another square to Pisces. Jupiter is in Sagittarius for justice and truth. And this time it will make an opposition to Venus in Gemini. And Venus in Gemini is at 17, 18 degrees where the star Rigel and Bellatrix is. Now, Rigel and Bellatrix are the ultimate kind of dark stars in astrology. Those people who know about the duality template in the Orion constellation know that Rigel and Bellatrix held kind of the malevolent forces. So when Venus is there at 18, 19 degrees, we're getting kind of amnesty on the tricksters, those that are born to deceive. Their job is to manipulate. Their whole energy is greedy, and they were created by Source to play this game with us. Now, what Venus and Jupiter do together is they give the full light of awareness on these tricksters, and they want to bring to you the truth. They're squaring Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces is like spiritual illusions, really like highly fantasized, you're going to do great spiritual bypassing type of stuff. And if you read my blog, you'll read some of those examples. But I found another example that is shared all over Facebook, and people tell me Instagram also, of someone who gives energy reports. And yesterday the report for June 17th through 19th was that the moon was in Sagittarius, which it was in Capricorn by midday of the 17th. And it's still in Capricorn now on June 19th. And the full awareness of that is that it passed through Saturn and Pluto, the keyhole of like long-term change, destruction, and regeneration of the hardcore discipline of your life that requires responsibility and accountability. So when the moon passes through there, very different energy than the moon in Sagittarius. And yet people were going on and on about how they were crying and they were fatigued and all these things. It also said there were geomagnetic storms. Now, if you go to spaceweather.com right now, the sun has been blank for 30 days. And it gave all this information about geomagnetic storms, about nausea and vision problems and vertigo and things like that. And I'm going, what do y'all like believe this stuff? It's like zombie spiritual narcotics, but it's shared hundreds of times on Facebook. Now, I want to explain some background of how what I would call malevolent forces do the trickery and deceit. So I listened to a producer of rap music be interviewed on Gaia.com by Regina Meredith. And he was talking about how he watched the 1970s, how heroin was introduced to the inner city populations, and the heroin caused those inner city populations to just forget their responsibilities, not be able to do the work of co-creating with their family or really love one another because they were always chasing that narcotic. And he also explained that the Vietnam War was purely fought for opium, for the narcotics, which people don't realize that either, which is why I also would say that was when Neptune was in Scorpio, and we had huge, like, drugs being introduced into cities, colleges, places where the youth would be using LSD. Also, that was, produced and introduced. And I had an interesting conversation with my daughter this morning, and she's like, yeah, it's like, people in the inner cities were not producing opium themselves. They weren't growing like poppy flowers in Harlem. All of this stuff is introduced, and then it spreads out to other communities, through the Latino community, through the Asian community, and eventually through the suburban white community who are going to buy this narcotic in the inner cities. And so it spreads out. And the same thing is happening with this spiritual narcotics. It's like the narcotization of our society, is that right now there are so many people who believe these energy reports of geomagnetic storms, and so they tell everyone else. I heard someone saying, oh, I have a headache because of the geomagnetic storms. That is heroin, folks. You are addicted to blaming your life on geomagnetic storms. The sun is totally blank and has been for 30 days. So what I also want to tell you is then crystal meth was introduced, and this producer of rap music was then producing in the 1980s a group that sang, don't believe the hype, don't believe the hype. And I'm going to tell you, this video is the same. Don't believe the hype. When you read these things, and then, this astrologer giving the energy report also talked about that Jupiter and Saturn were retrograde, and it's going to mean this. Well, Jupiter and Saturn have been retrograde for months. And this is not like some brand new update. So I would ask you to take responsibility. Go to astro.com, read the current planets, run an event chart for that full moon or that new moon, and see where the planets actually are. Or you could go to planetwatcher.com and you can see where the planets actually are. Get educated, take responsibility. You can go to my site and learn how to draw your own chart and your family's charts and see what the planets are actually doing to your personal natal soul agreement, because it's going to be different for everybody. But what we've got coming up on June 23rd is a T-square again to Neptune at 18 degrees Pisces, but the moon is going to join Neptune for like more fantastic addictions to spiritual illusion, spiritual narcotics. And Neptune is going to be in Pisces for like this cosmic narcotic effect through the end of March of 2025. So if you want to get off the drug of spiritual narcotics, start studying the planets yourself, or get out in nature and actually feel what's going on. There are no geomagnetic storms going on. You can feel this. When the X-class flares were happening in 2017, like, my body was radioactive. I could feel it because I am often out in nature. I've got my feet on the ground. I'm sitting in a tree right now. I have no shoes on. I'm next to the river. I can feel the currents of the water. I can feel the birds. I'm very connected to the earth. I'm embodied fully. I'm also not waiting for my guides to give me a message, or someone to make a YouTube video about what their guides say. So, like, my guides are inside of me because I'm fully embodied. They're not outside of me anymore. That transition happened long ago for me, when my guides didn't need to speak to me through clairaudience. The other thing I want to say is that if you read that blog, there is some discussion that I want to have publicly with many of the people who contacted me personally about the fact that they know they have implants from doing sessions with people who talk about hybrid children. Now, if you have had a session with or listened to a video of someone talking about alien abductions or hybrid children, you were likely tagged, meaning that you have an etheric implant for abduction yourself or for the harvest of your eggs or fetuses. If you look at the paintings that these folks have done of the hybrid children, they're grays. They're hybrid gray reptilian humanoids. They don't look Pleiadian, they don't look Syrian, they are grays. They've got the big eyes and the kind of pinched chin and the wide forehead. How do you think that that's a good idea? For me, that's another, like, the spiritual narcotic of, oh, I've got hundreds of hybrid children. Whoa, folks, when did you become a livestock, like, animal who's reproducing some children that you have no contact with? Now look, there's some beautiful, beautiful Canadian geese coming right down the river right now. This is paradise here. And having Neptune in Pisces makes paradise out there in the cosmos. And it allows you to be completely detached all the time, like you're on heroin. So look at your chart. What do you have? Like, I just did the chart of someone who has her ascendant at 20 degrees Pisces. And she told me she cannot get her feet on the ground. It's like she's living in a dream. Nothing makes sense, and there's cosmic trickery going on in her life all the time. And that's because her ascendant is receiving this T-square from Venus at 18 Gemini, Jupiter at 18 Sagittarius, which, by the way, is where my sun is, which is why I'm so, like, adamantly expressing the truth right now. And she doesn't have any money. She's living in, like, this psychedelic dream on planet Earth of her reality that doesn't add up in the physical embodiment of manifesting fully divine consciousness in a physical form, which is what we are doing here. So anyways, I hope that this can help. If you want to study your own chart, which I highly suggest, you can go to galacticshamanastrologers.net and access those 30 videos and learn how to draw the chart in the ancient traditional way, so it's not interfered with by all the astrology programs that are out there. And you can study your own chart and see what's true. Don't rely on me. I know people are willing to give me $300 to do their chart, their synastry chart, their solar return, or you can study it yourself and have this tool forever so that you don't believe these energy reports. And by the way, when I looked up this person's site who's giving the energy report, they're not a real human. Like, they don't have any personal videos. There's no, like, actual substance. So I do think that that is also a spiritual narcotic being introduced into our community. These are not even real people. They are opium being introduced into the starseed or the kind of people who think they're awakened community. So, loves, please do your research. Please wake up before this total narcotic of spiritual addictions to energy reports takes over our community. And you will be feeling Mars is making an opposition to Pluto today. That's like torture. Are you feeling it? But for me, it's great because I have my feet on the ground and I have a lot of energy, and I love my existence on planet Earth. I adore Gaia. So much love to you all. Blessings on this fabulous T-square to Neptunian deceptions. May you awake.